problem is my cheek weld is dipped.
Yeah.
Too obsessed with going out at night. Everybody now we gotta make it right. Everybody now we gotta make it right. We're on pieces.
Hold on, middle. The middle pig, hit it. There you go, left. Now back to swinger.
Long shot. Nice.
With about 450 rounds fired, mostly in tactical drills, some in accuracy testing, I think you're looking at the best factory-produced MP5 clone ever made. On the table, the 1894. At least one example of the 1894, and it is basically a semi-auto only MP5. In fact, it rolls off a production line that makes MP5s under license in the country of Turkey. And from what I can gather, it does it to the quality levels that most of us would expect to see with an H&K product. It is a high quality, extremely reliable and accurate firearm. If you've ever wanted an MP5 submachine gun, you've ever fantasized about it, you might find this review interesting. Hello everybody, this is Nothing Fancy. Detailed tabletop as best as I can do on the 1894. Welcome, thanks for watching, especially to my subscribers who support the project. Very appreciated as usual. Here's some ground rules for this review. I am not an MP5 expert. I did a lot of shooting on this gun, and I think I'm kind of an expert on the 1894 as far as the stuff that really counts to me, and that is the stuff you always see in talking points here on the project. I don't even know if I have them before me, but we'll just talk about them. So I'm going to talk about innovation, design, weight balance, firepower, ergonomics, reliability, accuracy, all those demonstrable, what I've always called first kind of cool things in detail. So I feel like I'm very qualified to talk to that. There's another side to this gun, actually several interesting sides to the 1894 that have to be addressed. I think you'll find them very interesting. And one is how it's involved with the MP5's history. I'll talk a little bit about that, may get some details wrong. I apologize if I do. I do the best I can. And then also we're going to talk about the ridiculous 922R, which is going to be a part of you owning this gun if you want it to make it look like this one looks. This one's on loan from an associate, and it is 922R compliant. It did not look this way as it came out of box. The owner did some parts replacements to bring it up to snuff. Blah, blah, blah. There you go, 922R. I may mention that here and again. Let's back up a little bit. MP5. Who has not wanted an MP5? What little boy, young man has not wanted an MP5 in their inventory at one time or another? Raise your hands. Yes, I was among that group. It's just an ultra cool, ultra efficient, accurate, and easy to handle submachine gun. We've watched it in movies forever. U.S. Navy SEALs might be an example of that. Great movie still, love it. And in the news. So it has a lot of exposure to us. In a lot of people's minds, when they think of a submachine gun, they think of an MP5 and all its variations. Okay, I'm going to jump into innovation design just a little bit with what I'm going to say next. The MP5, though, is somewhat of a, even though it's still modern, it's very popular with many armies around the world, hundreds of law enforcement agencies, several armed forces, actually here in the U.S. even. It is somewhat dated. I mean, that it was first adopted in 1966. Other variations came out in the 1970s. It is no longer, I wouldn't say it's cutting edge technology. Don't get me wrong, it's still holding its own. But some of that 1960s holdover maybe the materials and the resulting weight, as this gun is configured, might be a player as we go along. It is an outgrowth of what was then the HK54, if I'm not mistaken. That preceded the MP5, and then they developed the MP5 from that. Several variations, civilian legal variations of the MP5 did roll into the United States in the 1980s. First up was the HK94. It was a 9mm 16-inch barreled carbine, just like this one. I mean, not just like it, but it looked like there's this barrel length as well. And I think it was marketed like 1983 to 1989. 3 different configurations at that time were offered. There were some differences between this gun and that gun. I think the HK94 lacked the paddle magazine release. I could be wrong on that. And then also SP89, the pistol-only version, was brought into the U.S. It lasted a little bit longer, 1989 to 1994. These were genuine H&K products made in Germany, brought over here, and they were selling for a while. It had no, no vertical grip. It just had like a muzzle guard on the SP89. It was a pistol, and it didn't have a stock on it either. Now, I saw these guns growing up. I saw them as a teenager, and then later on, I was in a position to acquire an SP89 and also an HK94, and I never did it. And the reason I never did it, and this is very important as you watch my review, is because the H&K MP5 was designed from the outset to be a submachine gun. In that philosophy of use, it is very efficient. It is perfect. Granted, most of them had selector switches that you could go to semi-automatic fire, and I think, honestly, most of the guys running them ran them in semi-auto, maybe a 3-round burst, 2-round burst mechanism, depending on variation. That's where the gun excels. Soon as you make it into a pistol weighing 4 pounds, semi-automatic only with a 15-round magazine, I'm not interested. And I had this discussion with friends of mine, like Bug at Nuster, when he and I stood over an SP89 and said, hey, should we get one of these? And I basically said, what does this gun do that a SIG P226 can't? Talking the SP89 specifically. Nothing is the bottom line. It can't. Not in magazine capacity. Well, maybe back then in magazine capacity, because 20-rounders were only available then for the SIG. But I just couldn't pull the trigger on it, so to speak, because one, it was very expensive. All those H&Ks that came in earlier were just outrageously priced back then. I forget the exact price. I just knew, wow, that is a lot of money for an, well, welcome to the world of H&K, right? Everything's overpriced if you ask me. Same with HK94. And like I've always said, like if you go watch my PCC philosophy vid, that is pistol caliber carbine video, I prefer an AR-15 variation. It's more capable, has more range. These days, it's just about the same weight. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to spend my money. When we're talking about first kind of cooling capabilities, it's meant as a fully automatic gun. Okay? So philosophy of use on this, let's just jump right into that. On the AT94, which is a semi-auto variation of the MP5, I would say, first and foremost, is a collectible. It's meant for guys who wanted an MP5 and for whatever reason weren't able to hook into one. Maybe they wanted the H&K 94, the SP89. They didn't get one of those. They were frustrated. And they go, I can finally get myself an H&K. It's going to be a knockoff on MP5. But like I said, and as you're going to see with the results of the testing process here in TMP, this is a quality gun. This is not a piece of crap. This is a serious, in my opinion, military spec firearm. It's bulletproof. And so you're getting a lot of gun. You're basically getting a semi-auto MP5. Now, there are some big caveats about it that I'm going to talk about. Heck, I'll say it now. We're talking second kind of cool. You want an MP5. What you're buying is a project gun. It is not ready to run out of box. And this is probably where I got to mention 922R. What you're going to get with your AT94, there's 2 variations that were being imported. Again, they may come back. They may never come back. But at the time, American Tactical Imports was bringing in the AT94P, okay, and that's basically how this gun entered its existence. So it basically has a long 16-inch barrel, comes with no handguard whatsoever, and it comes with no butt stock whatsoever. That's the AT94P. We'll talk about some firepower considerations when we get to that talking point. The next one is kind of a knockoff on the SP89. It's the AT94K, so it's going to have a shorter barrel. It's the pistol-only version. Again, no handguard, no butt stock. Okay, so those are the 2 variations you can get. it's a project gun. Unless you're happy with running them just like that out of box, you're going to have to put some money, some time into converting it into a legal MP5 clone. Time to talk about 922R. First and foremost, I think it's an absolute ridiculous law. I don't support it, never have. Its interpretation and consistency thereof by the ATF has been all over the place. They say this is the way you do it, and then they change it in another letter. This is the way they should do it. Just depends who you talk to. There's all kinds of interpretations of what 922R means. How does it apply to the 1894? If you Google around, which I did, I found there's huge discussions about this gun and about the interpretation of making it 922R legal. And amongst very intelligent people who have lots of experience with H&K firearms, there's lots of disagreement. Well, you can do this, you can do that. No, you can't. You can put that on. Whew, I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to you. You're the just like the owner of this gun. It's his business. You know, what did he put on there? I don't know. I didn't even ask him. He just, yeah, I did some parts replacements to make it 922R compliant. It is doable. You're just going to put on more U.S. parts. Google 922R and you can see all the numbers. You can put on a U.S. produced handguard, which this is, I think. Then you can put on in a hammer, sear, the pistol frame, this portion, U.S. made. Put on a U.S. made stock in the back. Maybe some bolt group. The cocking tube is U.S. made. You can do that. Some internals like the bolt carrier. I'm not too sure because there's some proprietary stuff MKE has done in the receiver to make sure it does not accept MP5 full auto parts. Talk about that, perhaps. It is a hassle, okay? Or you can just do whatever you want to do with it. It's your gun, it's your business, you're a free person living in the United States of America. I don't ask, don't tell. Okay, so that's 922R. It's going to be a project gun. You just might like that. It might turn you on. And get ready to spend more money. As it comes out of box, it is not inexpensive. Around, I'll jump ahead to value, about $1,200, maybe a little bit less when they were available for the 1894P, this version. I think the MSRP on it was around $1,500. And then you're going to spend several $100s more in getting those US parts, especially if you decide to go with a claw mount and optic on top of that, and you're really going for something authentic MP5 looks. But in the end, if you always wanted MP5, if you just loved them, you really want something that's exactly like the quality. I shouldn't say exactly. This is probably a small step down from H&K quality from the MP5s that I've examined and shot. But it's close. Probably the closest you're ever going to get. You know, factory produced. Go for it. Next, philosophy of use. How about a defensive carbine as it is, out of box, without all that stuff on it? I would say probably not. There's too many other better options out there. Kel-Tec Sub 2000, even the Hi-Point 995. I know it's not as cool, but it's very capable. Not as much firepower. There's other 9mm pistol caliber carbines, Colt 9mm. I think they'd be better options. They're more ergonomic, in a lot of cases lighter weight. Definitely more inexpensive. Better options, okay? Recreational philosophy of use. If you just want to go out and plink rounds with that MP5 you never had a chance to, maybe this kind of goes hand in hand with collecting. 1894 is a good choice. Really good choice. Okay? And don't be freaked out that this is Turkish produced, by the way. Like I said, it's pretty much military specification. It's coming off the same production line that's has made MP5s for the Turkish military forever under license from H&K. And if they're licensed, that means H&K has gone there and said, hey, are these guys doing it right? Yeah, they're doing it right. Okay, so, and take it from me, having shot some Turkish firearms, they are excellent. They kind of know, not all of them, but I'm saying they are capable of producing some very fine firearms. All right, enough of that. Like I said, I have no idea. There's so much to talk about with this review, but there is. Innovation and design. We're still talking about that. We kind of got to talk about the MP5 and how innovative it was when it came out. First, the form factor. And I don't think this is a great representation, and this is one reason I'm kind of cooled to the 1894 variations. It's because this long freaking barrel. Hate this thing. It is goofy. It's not granted, we have to put that on, so it's not a short-barreled rifle, an SBR, so we tax stamp it and all that. But I hate it. I think it pretty much ruins the 1894. I highly recommend if you get an 1894, you go through the tax registration and turn it into an SBR. Cut it down about here where it should be, losing a lot of weight, gaining a whole bunch more portability. But when it first came out in 1964, subsequently adopted in 66 or so, this thing was cutting edge. I mean, it was a 3rd gen submachine gun, and it was amazing. Accurate, reliable. One reason is it fires, and I hope I get all the details right, it's a delayed blowback firing from a roller locked bolt. So there is a slight retardation before that bolt unlocks and ejects a spent cartridge and fires another one. It's a knockoff, or actually not a knockoff, but it came out of the Series 90 and G3 H&K products. Same type of mechanism. Fires from a fluted chamber. Fluted so debris doesn't necessarily clog up the extraction of your round. Fires from a closed bolt, by the way. That was pretty innovative. Because most of the submachine guns in the 60s, like the Uzi, fired from an open bolt. They do that so there weren't cook-off problems. So as we go to full auto, we really heat the gun up a lot, that there's not a cook-off problem where a cartridge, when I'm talking when the receiver's really, really hot, can actually fire without the trigger being pulled. I don't hear many problems with that with the MP5, incidentally. But when you fire from a closed bolt, since that mass is not slamming forward as you shoot the gun, it's going to be a more accurate weapon. Had a unique forward-mounted charging handle, a la H&K G3. This is actually a cocking tube, which impacts the bolt carrier. Okay, so this is not a reciprocating part with MP5 1894 series. It just stays there. Has an innovative way to keep the bolt open. Easy. This is probably one of the coolest movie shots ever, right? When you reload your MP5, just smacking it like that. Yeah, pretty styling. Lightweight. Now granted, this one is not lightweight because we got that freaking 16-inch barrel hanging out there. The 1894, as you're looking at it, is 7 pounds, 14 ounces. Ouch. Granted, it's packing. The user has decided to go with a wide H&K style Surefire 628 light forend. That's going to add some weight. He just loved it. Okay, he thinks it's period, really cool. The regular MP5, however, 5 pounds, 9 ounces. Even the MP5 SD was fairly lightweight, 6 pounds, 6 ounces with an integral suppressor. So that was pretty light compared to other submachine guns of the era. The Smith & Wesson, the MAP 49, whatever you want to go. Awesome. Another innovation was the versatility of the MP5. That you could basically drop in any trigger module that you would need. You want a 2-round burst version, you got it. 3-round burst, full auto, all kinds of variations. If you want, go into Wikipedia, they'll list all the variations of the MP5, all very successful, adopted again by all kinds of militaries and law enforcement agencies. A versatile, very popular, lightweight, and I would say mostly reliable platform was the MP5. I say mostly because in my experience, I've ran across some law enforcement friends who have extensive experience with agency MP5s, and they say they've seen lots of problems with errors. But again, we get into, well, how well were maintained were their MP5s? Did the armor know the gun? Is he replacing parts when they need to be replaced? Are they lubricated? I honestly think, having shot this gun extensively, that if you keep the gun lubricated and cleaned, and the parts are good, I think you're going to have an extremely reliable firearm. That's innovation design. I'm sure I forgot some stuff. Balance. I really didn't talk about that. With the 1894, I know I'm talking a lot about the MP5. The balance is actually still pretty good. I would say slightly muzzle heavy. Imagine that with that thing hanging out there. Yeah. Slightly muzzle heavy, but still pretty good. The magazines are not super light, by the way. They're 7 ounces, and that weighs more than an M4 aluminum GI mag, weighing around 4, maybe 5 ounces, depending on version, what kind of base plate you have on it. Okay, so the 1894, as it comes, especially when you deck it out like this, is not going to be light. That's going to give it a hit on my likability scale. Sorry, there's no way around that. It's just the way it is, because competition ain't weighing that much. Kel-Tec Sub 2000, same capabilities of this gun. Remember, we're talking semi-autos, not submachine guns. It's going to take a hit. On to ergonomics. Start off with the pistol grip. I think the pistol grip of the HK MP5 and the 1894 is outstanding. Very comfortable, and that's one reason it just took off. Because it's just an ergonomic gun overall. At least on that portion there. I think the trigger's nice. I forgot to put on a trigger pull scale, sorry, but it feels kind of like a very lightweight double action only trigger. Everybody who shot this gun, by the way, in the TMP crew loved it. They're like, that's pretty cool. Liked it. Trigger's good. Nice positive selector. Hear that? Doesn't snick off accidentally. It's probably just like an HK MP5. Magazine release. Again, the paddle release is included in the AT94. It's not a drop-free magazine. As you saw in our running guns, I'll roll in the footage if I haven't already. It takes a little bit of practice to get the magazine out quickly. On this version, there's a magazine release right here if you want to press that. I never use that. I just use the paddle. That's the quickest way to do it. Kind of like a Mini 14, AK. No big deal. One thing I had to warm up to were the sights. And when I talk about the sights, I want to talk about the stock. This has an MP5 style A3 or A3 style stock. It's a retractable stock, and I hate it. Do not like the stock. And in fact, if you have an AT94, unless ultimate compactness is very important to you, I recommend you steer away from the stock. The user or the owner on this gun just did it. He liked the looks. I've since reported to him. I was like, I hate your stock, dude. It is horrible. It's hard to get a cheek weld with it. If you do, if it's cold, like it's 10 degrees outside, you're going to get, face freeze to the steel. And then most importantly, onto the sights, it's hard for me to get a consistent cheek weld to make consistent hits. That's a diopter sight. It has 4 different apertures. On the MP5, they're graduated to 25, 50, 75, 100 meters. I imagine about the same here. I think it is on the same focal plane. I say I think because I only ran it on the smallest aperture because my fat face is so close to that rear sight. I'm actually trying to move aft on the stock so I can get better preciseness and actually more consistency. This is a horrible stock. It's not horrible in its construction, it's horrible in its ergonomics, and that's what we're talking about. I actually had to tape on some foam on top of this, and that helps me personally a lot. Got the very famous HK hooded peep sight on the front, and actually it's a pretty good sight picture. Okay, it's the standard aperture. I don't know if I can line it up. You guys know what it looks like. It's a clean aperture. It's just my problem is I'm too close to the rear sight generally. Now, other crew members didn't really complain as much about it, and most people, when they got used to it, shot it very well. And I'm talking in tactical drills, like the Eat Lead drill, they tore it up. AT94 came alive. Did really good. I think eventually I had a good run with it. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, the stock. If I were to do an AT94, I'm trying to retract this stock, I would put on an A2 style fixed stock on it, and if I had to, I would throw, a pad on the back of it to give me longer length of pull. That's ergonomics on the AT94. They would be improved, once again, by turning it into an SBR. And if you wanted to, while you're at it, you could have an aftermarket 3-lug modification put on there, a la MP5. Get ready to spend about probably more than that. I think it's like $400 to do that. Ouch! Firepower. You're looking at a 30-round genuine H&K MP5 magazine. And I love these magazines as far as, one, loadability. Man, these are easy to load. I mean, you just throw the rounds in, they just feed in. This is the easiest 9mm mag to load I've ever used. All good. It's very reliable. It's built like a tank. These genuine H&K mags. I don't think this dude had any MKE mags. They might be good, they might not, I don't know. I was just running his MP5 mags that he included with the gun, and they were outstanding. Good reliability. There is a caveat to that, I'll tell you here in a second. The firepower is excellent. That was once again a selling point for the MP5. Not that other subguns of the day didn't have 30-round capabilities, that perhaps even more they did, like the Russian submachine gun, the drum mag, the PPSH, a lot more. But it was slimline, they were reliable, extremely durable. Basically the whole gun, by the way, is extremely durable, and that makes it a good agency gun where it's going to see a lot of use. That's why the Navy SEALs still stick with the MP5. And then you have a CMAG 100 round option with the AT94. It will fit. Maybe. Here's what I was going to tell you. If you get the AT94P, which this model is, or the AT94K, both of those models, they don't have dimples or something like that in the mag well. They did import, and I forgot to mention this, a carbine, an AT94 carbine. And it was more or less outfitted like this gun. It looked like this gun, but it had indentations in the magazine well, so it could be imported. So it did not accept standard H&K MP5 mags, and that is a hassle to change over. So most people who go out and buy an 1894 are getting the pistol variations, making them 922R compliant. Are you still with me? Probably not. I know, it's confusing. Suffice it to say, these versions, the one I have on the table, doesn't have the dimples. It'll take those magazines. Awesome. I'd recommend probably going with genuine H&K MP5 mags for reliability. That's firepower. It's outstanding. Materials and quality. Whew, man, there's a lot to talk about. A lot of this I've already talked about. How about this though? Forged barrel. Just like the MP5. I think that has like a 1 in 10 twist on it. Where's my notes? Yeah, something like that. 1 in 10 twist. Okay, and the receiver, let me bring the gun close so you can look at the welds in case you're ever in the market to buy one of these. There was some discussion about, guys, how it's not as high quality as a genuine MP5. Again, I've examined some MP5s. I think they were a little bit higher quality, but remember, this is a licensed produced gun. They had to pass some quality standards. Otherwise, they would have lost the license, to the best of my knowledge. I don't see any problems with the quality of the gun whatsoever. I don't look at it and go, this sucks. There is a problem with this forend the dude put on. Listen, there's some wiggle right here. See that? There is a little wiggle in the pistol frame. This. Okay, maybe some minor issues there. Reliability and durability. There were a couple of malfunctions to fire in this 1894 in about, again, 450 rounds fired. However, this is very important to understand, it was with aluminum cased Blazer ammunition. What? How are you shooting aluminum cased ammo in that, nothing fancy? Well, one, it shot it pretty darn good with almost absolute reliability. I had maybe 2-3 failures of the Blazer ammo, and that's about it. And because it's cheaper, I'll run it. In fact, if I had an 1894, I would think nothing of it in running aluminum case ammo. Now, that being said, and in my experience, which has actually grown considerably over the last 6 months with PCCs, blowback varieties, brass cased ammo is your best bet. It's going to be the most reliable. It's probably, in most guns, I don't know about this one, going to be more accurate as well. So, couple of failures with Blazer ammo, and here's a weird thing. Check this out. Taking the gun apart tonight. This is after having ran it with my son Tactical Doodle in the Eat Lead drill. That was like its third outing. We found this case stuck inside the receiver somewhere. The gun had been shooting 100% reliable, and this case was in there somewhere the whole time. Check that out. So, don't know where it was. Was it back here in the crevice? Don't know. Strange. The interesting part is that even with that in there, the gun was running. So reliability was, I would say, excellent. In fact, because it was running aluminum case, I'm not even going to give it a ding. With brass case, I hope I'm remembering all that because I did shoot it a lot. If I find something otherwise, I'll roll it in footage, let you know in annotation. But it was extremely reliable. Durability, like I said, it is an institutional firearm. That is, it's strong enough to withstand institutional use, an agency, a military. If you don't believe me, search around, look at all the pictures of the MP5s all over the world in use. Most of them are thrashed, all beat up. In fact, when I was deployed overseas in the military, I would see lots of MP5s with foreign militaries, Turkey included, and I was always amazed at how beat up their guns were, and yet still running. You know, entering service like 20 years ago, and they're still running their MP5s. This gun is just like an MP5 in that respect. I think I've established the quality levels. On to accuracy. I didn't do too much in accuracy work because, again, most of the shooting we did in the Nut and Fancy project was tactical drills. And in that realm, the gun really rocked. Well, kind of. At least when I got used to the sights. Other guys were rocking with it. Here's accuracy on the 1894. That's at 25 yards. Okay? And that's, remember, is with iron sights off rest. I have some 22 597 shooting on this target too, give you a little insight. And there's another group. Look at that. 5 rounds Blazer aluminum. That's what I was saying, that it really liked that ammo. That's another reason I wanted to run it, because it was so supremely accurate out of the gun. Wow. Okay, and then I moved it back to 50 yards open sights when I had to work to get these groups. There's one. 50 yards out of this gun. Blazer FMJ, how about that group? I'm showing you the footage right now as I shot it. Proof of concept. Wow, that is really cool. This is a 5-round group. Opened it up, and really I didn't have anything to aim at. I was just aiming between these two circles here with iron sights, with my eyes. Accuracy is phenomenal out of the 1894. As good as any other carbine PCC that I've shot in the project to date onto field strip. Very, very easy to field strip. I'm not really going to do it here because I want to crank through this video. Basically it has pull pins, so you'll pull this pin out. Okay, maybe I'll roll in a picture or two as I'm talking here because I just got done cleaning this gun for my bud. Pull this pin out, take off the end cap, and then you'll take the whole recoil spring and bolt carrier group out of the gun. It just slides right out. There's your takedown. That's all you got to do. Oh, I forgot to mention, this whole pistol grip housing will swing away, allow you access. You can clean that out if you have to. You shouldn't have to take that down at all. And voila, you get inside. But then begins the fun. It's easy to take apart, but I found it's kind of hard getting into the recesses to clean the darn thing. Okay, because it is a deep chamber and it's surrounded by metal on all sides, so getting down there and cleaning the chamber face and the recesses and all the gunk and powder residue in there is a little bit of a chore. I used Break Free. I use, scrubbers, every sort and description. Get down there. In the end, I got it clean, no problem. Checked out that fluted chamber while I was there. That was pretty cool. Not a chrome line barrel from what I can see. And also while I was in there, had the bolt out, I took a leak. Not that. Promise I didn't. Friends probably watching. What? You peed on my gun? No, I took a look down the receiver tube. Right about here, they have a welded on chunk of metal, and that's to prevent the insertion of fully auto capable bolt carrier groups from an MP5 right here. There's all kinds of discussion. Can you remove that? I'll leave that up to those guys. Probably not without getting in trouble. That's my 2 cents. But you're not going to be able, I think, to just simply replace in bolt carrier groups from an MP5 because of that. They've got to be 1894 specific, made by MKE. Okay, so there you go. Field strip easy. Once again, the handguard comes off easy. It has a push pin, swings away. It is a free floated barrel, by the way. Probably also contributing to accuracy. That's field strip. That's all I'm going to say. On to accessories. There are tons for this gun. In fact, remember, it's a project gun. If you're going to make it look like this, you are going to learn about the accessories. And I would venture to say that nobody's going to buy an 1894 unless they've done their homework. I don't think it's too many buyers that will waltz into a gun store and buy a $1,200 PCC unless they just always loved an MP5. But like I said, it does not look cool coming out of box. You have to transform it into this. You're going to have to buy, I don't know, this forend, the Shurlite 628, at least the 628 LM is running about $370. You don't have to put a light forend on there. In fact, my favorite one is the slim H&K forend. And I think that runs, I don't know, $50, maybe 75. You might put on a pistol frame housing that's US made to get your 922 up. The stocks are expensive. Okay, basically everything you're going to put on your 1894 is going to cost you, and it's going to be expensive. In my estimation, it's kind of like having a Porsche. You go out, you get some parts for your Porsche, they're expensive. It's because you have a Porsche, because you have an H&K, or even an H&K clone in this case, expensive. Stocks, new pistol grip frames, magazines. Actually, they're not horrible, but I think the German mags, 30 rounders, are about $65. The MKEs are $50. That C-Mag 100 round is like $300. Get ready to spend some money. Get ready to up the cost, Folding stock from Choate is available. I'm talking retractable. It's about $130. The German's $300.
Was smart.
Wow. The claw mount, if you want that, also going to be expensive. That's how you're going to mount an optic on there. And actually, that's how I would prefer to run my 1894 if I had one. About $230 for an H&K claw mount, new one. Arms makes one too, less money. There's some Korean variations out there. Other lower quality options, but yeah, it's just going to cost you some money to get it to this level. Again, I think when it's all said and done, you may have around $1,800 or so in it, depending on the quality of the parts you've opted for, how many you've opted for. On to value. Well, with that being said, I would say value pretty much sucks for the 1894. I'm sorry, it does. If you're an 1894 fan, if you're already an owner, if you're an MP5 fan, I'm sorry, but I call it as I see it. This is an expensive PCC. It just is. $1,200 for a pistol caliber carbine? Forget it. Unless you're in and tied to the second kind of cool MP5 stuff. Do you understand? I've always preached about that. If a guy just wants an MP5, then it's money well spent. If it makes you smile at night as you're caressing it, watching U.S. Navy SEALs, it's money well spent. Okay? If your friends come over and they look at it and go, oh my gosh, dude, you have an MP5? Especially if you've SBR'd it and it looks just like an MP5, granted it's semi-auto only. Very cool. And by the way, I took this to the range and it drew interest at the range. I had several people come over and inquire about the gun. What is that? Is that an MP5? People all know what an MP5 is. Just like I said, they've seen it in movies and news. Some shot it and they loved it. They're like, man, that's a cool gun. How much is it? About $1,200. What? Suddenly they didn't love it as much. And then I didn't tell them about all the other stuff you gotta buy to make it look like this. I'd say value just sucks. Sorry, it just does. Now, if you were to compare it against other MP5 clones, in other words, to bring them up to that level, the quality levels which I've shown you, it probably is pretty good value. Okay, we're talking a different area. H&K enthusiasts, you're comparing apples to get this compared to a custom-made clone, way ahead of the game cost-wise with that. But I'm looking at it at first type of cool against other PCCs, like I mentioned, Kel-Tec SEP-2000, even the High Point 995, a 9mm AR-15, some other options. I'm sorry, they're less expensive. They're just as capable, if not more capable, than this gun. That's just the way I see it. Track record is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Oh, by the way, accessories, this sling came with it. Didn't like it. This is a H&K MP5 sling. It's a 2-point sling and it has a connecting strap between it. We ran it and it just kept coming off. I think these retention clasps, at least this one here, needs to be bent tighter. We just ran a standard sling for it mostly. I just didn't like it. If you guys like it, rock on. It's very 1960s. Track record, yes, is phenomenal. I mean, it's an MP5. Just like I said, with everything that the MP5 has done, the 1894, I think is capable as well, except one glaring omission, and that is full auto capability. And just like I said at the beginning of the video, this gun was designed as a submachine gun. Okay, and remember that when you look at my likability scale in the sidebar. My likability scale is going to concentrate on first kind of cool, the capabilities of this gun for the money spent compared to other options. That's what my likability scale is. Granted, some second kind of cool stuff will roll into some items, but that's mostly there. I'm not enamored with the weight on this gun at all. It is way heavy. It is heavy as an AR-15. 7 pounds, 14 ounces as configured, and that's with a single mag. That's not with this heavy double mag. That's an H&K, genuine H&K magazine clamp, by the way, in case you're wondering. This worked great, by the way. We did shoot it. It's heavy. That's about the only downside other than my weirdness of getting used to the sights. I mean, the trigger was excellent. The reliability was excellent. The accuracy was phenomenal. It was fun to shoot. I could go through 1,000 rounds in a day with an 1894 and just have the biggest smile on my face. Everybody felt the same way in the Nuts Fancy project. Well, things could change. It is very hard to find. Currently, probably unavailable as a new gun, but again, another importer may pick it up. They may hammer out another agreement, or you may never see the 1894 on the market ever again. You have to go on the used market. I just don't know, don't have a crystal ball. But if you're an MP5 fan, you've always wanted an MP5. You're willing to pay, I don't know, a small sum of money to get this gun. Worthwhile. That's the Nut Fancy review. Thanks, guys. See you.